Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the WCW Saturday Night Review series here on Pro Wrestling Logic. We are probably about 30 or 40, maybe closer to 50 shows into the journey here. We are looking at and going into June of 1993. We've got several more in 1993, a couple in 94, and then some in 95, and then we're kind of out of stuff, but we'll move on to something else quick enough. Anyway, June 5th, 1993, going into the Beach Blast pay-per-view in July. Sid, which actually, it's funny, this is probably one of the worst just times in WCW during this period. Anyway, Sid with Colonel Robert Parker is here. Sid debuted at the Slamboree pay-per-view and hits a couple of kicks, hits a power bomb, and Sid as a heel is usually better than Sid as a babyface, even though people wanted to turn him just because of how he looks. Anyway, Colonel Robert Parker says he's sick of being embarrassed, and that he took care of Van Hammer, took care of everything that's necessary, and that he, in fact, is Colonel Parker, that is, in control of Sid. Sid claims to be the master and ruler of the world. Odd thing next, as the assassin Jody Hamilton talks about the nature of his feud with Dusty Rhodes going back to the early 80s. He says 7 or 8 years ago, so mid 80s probably, and mentions going after the Dream's mother and contacting his mother, contacting her because he believes that's the way things are going to go. Then we see Max Payne makes his way out, sunglasses, dressed in all black and all, and playing his guitar, which I believe he actually is a guitar player. I'm pretty sure of this anyway. Anyhow, so super short match there, punch kick, a couple of clotheslines followed by a quick armbar and a win. Probably less than 3 minutes to the Max Payne win there. Nothing to write home about. Complete squash match. Then we see the return of craziness. The vignette. This is the summer of foolish vignettes. This time, a lady reporter is tracking the whereabouts of Cactus Jack post his brain-related injury as it relates to the power bomb from Cactus Jack at the end of April. We see her talking to a man who's almost, I guess, outside a mental ward, impersonating the Rain Man. If you've never seen this, it's worth seeing just to see how bad it is, but Rain Man sends her off to Cleveland, among other places that he's in the stars or something. Anyway, NWA champion Barry Windham facing off against Pez Whatley. Not really sure why the NWA champion is in a squash match. Doesn't really need that much of a push. Takedowns by Whatley. Whatley still well regarded for his time in the territories, and he's given a little bit of offense. So he's 2 steps above enhancement talent to the stars. Fact remains, he's still pretty aggressively, assertively motivated there. Anyway, Whatley hits a couple of jabs and a couple of clotheslines along the way. Doesn't really get much going with Windham. Windham quickly turns on him and hits the jumping DDT for the victory, as per his NWA Championship win at Super Brawl back in February, which I'm actually looking forward to covering those pay-per-views when the time comes. Rick Rude's in the back room still talking about how he wants to be the U.S. champion, feels that he has been wronged, and the Dustin Rhodes issue has escalated. Speaking of Dustin Rhodes, he's up next in a match, non-sequentially, with Colonel not Robert Parker, Dwayne Bruce, Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker at the time. It's some basic arm drags and basic stuff here. Rhodes still a few months away from finding where he is as a talent. Works over the wrist and arm for a couple of minutes. Doesn't really do a heck of a lot there. Rhodes promises to get even with Rick Rude coming up at the next pay-per-view. Is tired of things, ends up hitting a bulldog and gets a victory there. Then we see Paula Orndorff, or Paul Orndorff, Paula, if you believe the fans, and the chance that they are hurling Paul, if you go by his legal technical given name, um, tagging with Dirty Dick Slater, who's in and out of the promotion against, sadly, a junk food dog, very large junkyard dog, in Jim Neidhart. Not a good match by any stretch of the imagination. They are here to cut what seems to be a very basic promo there. That doesn't go very well. Basically, Neidhart says he and the dog are crazy like foxes and ready to go. Match itself isn't much better than the promo, to be completely honest. Nothing to write home about, and it appears that Orndorff doesn't even, at the beginning of the match, want to take his jacket off, as he doesn't do so during the first few minutes of the contest here. They kind of continue going pretty simply, and turns into a bit of a brawl. Obviously, Junkyard Dog, near the end of his career, gets sent around a little bit. Orndorff tries to do what he can, but it is not the Mid-South days by any stretch of the imagination. Hard kicks by Orndorff, among other things, cut off and double down with Neidhart and Dick Slater in the middle of the ring, tag off to the Junkyard Dog and Paul Orndorff. Both heels come in. Junkyard Dog manages to take both men down a little bit and tries the thump on Orndorff. Orndorff still with his leg wrapped quite tightly, as it appears he may have injured calf muscle, and amazingly, in a very awkward maneuver, the Junkyard Dog actually runs himself into the buckle, or on the outside, and runs himself into the post. Anyway, not a good deal. Brawl on the outside with Orndorff and the dog. Dog laying on the floor looking like, well, dog poo, and not a good stretch for anyone there. Referee goes down. Referee looks like he's taking a leisurely nap. Match is stopped as a result of that. Then we see hype for the, actually we go to an enhancement talent match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat here. Steamboat still hasn't really found his way post his tag match tag reign with Shane Douglas. It seems that the feud with the Blondes was blown off at the Slamboree pay-per-view or thereabouts. Enhancement Talent gets a couple of shots on Steamboat. Steamboat fires back, still doing the fire thing. Literally, this match probably runs about 2 minutes. Steamboat gets a top rope crossbody along the way. Then we see an interview with Flair and Anderson. They promise to win the tag team titles and hype the Horsemen for the next little while. Then we go to a update from Teddy Long, who is promising to be, for lack of a better term, a good role model for the area. That's after a Barry Windham promo where he says that Flair isn't worth worrying about at any level. Then we see a costume person dressed up and telling us that Lord Steven Regal and Sir William will begin here next week. Shivani seemed perplexed by that, as he doesn't really seem to know much about them, and neither do we. We do, in fact, see them come along. Then we get a tag match with the super tag team of Davey Boy Smith, British Bulldog, and Sting against Tex Slazenger, Shanghai Pierce. Match is about as good as you'd expect. The baby faces do the majority of the brawling. Seeing Sting with Stinger Splash in the corner on both guys at a point after a hammerlock by the British Bulldog, certainly not something to write home about, but it serves the purpose for the time, fills the TV time. Obviously, the main event of the uh, Beach Brawl pay-per-view has not been determined. Sting actually gets the Scorpion Deathlock on Tex Slazenger at a point. Shanghai Pierce gets sent out, and Davey Boy Smith switches without the referee really caring too much. Hits the hanging suplex splash combination, and a finish for the babyfaces. 1, 2, 3. Then we go to Ric Flair sitting down with Johnny B. Bad. Johnny B. Bad calling Flair pretty, presenting him with a boa. Nothing really notable coming out of the segment, as basically a time filler for Flair to do the Flair for the Gold segment without real storyline advancement there. Kensuke Sasaki up next in a match that I guess we're supposed to care about, but Sasaki really doesn't have a strong angle. However, Rick Rude is his opponent here. Still moving towards the U.S. title victory or feud between Rude and Rhodes coming up at the Beach Blast style pay-per-view. Arm bars, arm locks, both guys switch off. Sasaki not given his best wrestling effort here, however, does wrench on Rude's arm quite a bit. A lot more holds and rest holds than would be expected. Rude switches to a back chin lock early, doesn't get all he wants to get out of that. Sasaki goes to the top rope pretty effortlessly or without worrying too terribly much. Hits a top rope double shot to the midsection there. Flair for the old with Austin and Pillman dressed up. There's Fifi the maid. Pillman basically says that Anderson and Flair are old. It's kind of an interesting thing. Pillman's in a wig and mocking the age of the Horsemen, and eventually Horsemen come out to defend themselves and brawl to close the show. We'll be back with more right after this.